Okay. So. Alright then, so this is Timespinner. It's a Metroidvania, a bit more linear than certain Metroidvanias like Hollow Knight, but it's still, there's still a bit of flexibility and everything in it, and this run is going to be a new game plus no major glitches run, which if you've played the game, just standard new game, or if you've seen an any percent speedrun, there are going to be a few differences that I'll get into as the run progresses, sort of as they come up during the run. But for now, I think it's time to get started. Time starts when I select difficulty, so 3, 2, 1, go. So the first major difference is I start with the Teleria attachment in this, which is this long, fast dash. I'm going to try to be dashing as much as possible during this run because that's the fastest way of moving. The other thing is I get to start with all weapons, and I can switch between 3 at will. That's going to be extremely useful for just clearing enemies out quickly. The third difference, as you see, is my level is capped, so I basically beat all enemies near instantly. Here I use a light wall. It's this solid wall of light that I can stand on, jump on. It's really great. And I'm using it for a little sequence break, dropping down into sealed caves to pick up security keycard B. This is going to give me access to everywhere that isn't, everywhere that requires keycards that doesn't require keycard A, essentially. And so that's going to let me cut out a few significant parts of the run because there are some other keycards that I don't need to get now. I'm just using Chaos Blaze to clear these enemies out again, and I'm now going to climb up here to get the Timespinner wheel, and the Timespinner wheel is going to be used to pause time, and that is going to do a few important things throughout the course of the run. It makes enemies stop moving, and they lose their hitbox but retain their collision, so I can stand on them like that. It also prevents platforms from moving and collapsing, and so on. I'm just going to flash time stop here a few times to get enemies into the right place, using Chaos Blaze to clear this out, switching to Plasma Orb because it's... Oh, missing that jump there. Plasma Orb has a lot of range, and it's sort of a homing attack, so I don't really have to worry about aiming it or spacing it at all. And we're coming up on the first boss, and this is Jenny Anydots. I'm just going to hit Jenny Anydots with a hammer, and the fight's over because I'm maximum level, so I do maximum damage, basically. Even though I pretty much am going to be one-shotting all of the bosses, that doesn't mean it's entirely, trivial, because I still have to do everything as fast as possible with the correct weapons. We're heading now into Varnagray Metropolis, which is, in my opinion, the hardest area in the whole run. There are just so many areas that can go ever so slightly wrong, just like that. I'm gonna drop into the water from the start here and just light wall my way out, because that is generally faster than trying to line up all of those jumps in a row through the library. And there are these little bird helicopter things coming by. You might notice this is Animalthon. So far, aside from the adorable griffin that's following me around, there haven't been that many animals. Well, the lore is, at least in this time period, the government seems to have replaced all of the animals with robots. It's not a huge plot point, but it is a thing that appears to have happened. Past that gargoyle room, but past this guy, up these stairs, past this other guy, kind of gonna run into him, up into the ventilation, and gonna just run through here under these spiders and then over some more spiders. So this, yeah, the griffin basically, it's adorable, but it doesn't really do that much. It sort of flies behind me and occasionally attacks enemies that I've already run behind. It's, it's cute. Gonna just drop down, zap this spider, gonna try to hug this wall so I can hit this third spider. I did. It's kind of tight spacing there, just running through these gargoyle rooms. It's gonna pick up the, picking up the keycard for the elevator. That's going to allow me to ride the elevator. And I'm going to start by riding the elevator downward to set a warp gate, because I'm going to need to fast travel back here pretty frequently later in the run. So I'm just going to drop down here, stick to that ledge for some reason. Also, I think this is a good time to point out, slopes in this game are kind of weird. Like, you move slower if you're on a slope, so I try to, not be on slopes as much as possible. But running off of slopes is strange. Sometimes you stick to them and sometimes you don't, and sometimes it's based on incline and sometimes it's not. And so I'm coming up on the next boss, Varnagroth. I'm gonna just toss out a couple of eye orbs because it has a hitbox that kind of lingers. Just like that, and it doesn't become vulnerable. Like, there's not a great cue for when it becomes vulnerable. So the chaos, or sorry, the eye orb sort of hits it the first frame it's vulnerable. So now I'm heading back across Varnagroth Metropolis to the Timespinner, and I'm going to use it to travel back in time, but unfortunately I'm going to go a little bit too far back in time, 1,000 years to be precise, and that's not ideal because that's not where I wanted to go. But first, here's an unskippable cutscene, so it's time to have some water. Okay, water has been had. So I'm going to regain control before the screen fades in. I'm going to kind of use the NPC indicator there to get an indication of where I am so I can drop down there early. Another 2 cutscenes to skip, and then I'm going to head out to Greenwood Forest. And I'm going to make a lot of use of my Plasma Orb's homing attack here, because these birds are kind of awkward. And the moths in the next screen are kind of, they fly around a lot, they're kind of slow. I'm going to just do a short hop Chaos Blades. You might notice I'm attacking a lot whenever I'm jumping a lot whenever I attack. And that's because if you attack when you're on the ground, you stop moving. If you attack when you're in the air, you can still move, but it resets your momentum from the dash, so you still want to not attack much, but if you have to, do it in the air. This is the first fly room. All these flies are really mean, so I just pause and run past them. The second one is much harder. Gonna jump off a bird here. So since this is the past, the birds are here. The animals are here. We've got birds, we've got rats, we've got bats. We've got, still the griffin. And just running along to the second fly screen, the hard one. And so I'm just going to leave this paused the whole time, basically, so that the flies can't kill me, because they can and they will if I don't do that. Just running to the next boss, Azure Queen. And moving right along. Going to go into this warp gate and pick up the pyramid key. That allows me to use these warp gates, and also picking it up opens up the castle drawbridge, so now I can go attack the castle and do battle with those 2 demons that just showed up when I picked up the key. So I'm going to go back to Greenwood Forest now, but this time I'm going to head to the east, because the castle's that way. Just pausing because these rats are kind of awkward. They can just sort of run right into me and just totally ruin my day. The bats aren't that much of a concern in this. In any percent they kind of are. Jumping across the water there, the timing is a little bit tight on it, but it's no problem. Pausing because that first bat would follow me and kind of being a little bit unpleasant. Just jumping to refill my sand, which is my sort of my time stop meter. There's a limit. It's not that much of a concern in New Game Plus because my level's capped, but it's, it is something that you have to keep up. Gonna pause here because otherwise this enemy up here would roll a barrel Donkey Kong style at me, and using Light Wall to climb up here. Switching over to Chaos Blades, I'm going to just jump over a few enemies and run into that guy because I forgot he was there. But this room is where I was planning on running past enemies. I forgot that guy was there too. No problem though, because I'm actually generally doing pretty well on health right now, so I can afford to tank a couple of attacks here and there. So I'm inside the castle now. There's not too much happening here, just jumping up these stairs, so I don't have to worry about slowing down. Gonna pause so I can get around this archer here. Okay. Hello, please? Okay. Got up that room. It was a bit of a process. But we made it. We made it, and we're gonna pause and jump on top of the Royal Advisor here. And up and around. So we're coming up on the Golden Idol and those 2 demons. We're gonna use, for that, we're going to use the Gun Orb. on the demons, and then hit the idol with the Colossal Hammer, which is its sort of companion charge attack. At least for the loadout I'm using. So we got the Succubus Hairpin from that, and that is a double jump, which is going to be extremely useful, especially when combined with the dash and the time stop. It's this very nice, also very nice sort of pirouette animation. It's very, very good, you know, being able to double jump and spin like that. So I'm gonna do a little dash here. Just skip that other platform because I can go really fast and dash really far and jump really far. Heading into the Royal Towers now to go fight the Queen Ilana. Just running through these birds, I feel very powerful. But here I'm going to pause time because there's a guy in the next room that I need to jump on right there. And heading... Please. Okay. So in this room, in any percent, you do a thing called Ice Skip, because it's a skip that involves ice, and you just skip it entirely. So that's Ice Skip Skip. So I'm jumping up these stairs, defeating enemies, switching over to Gun Orb, little double jumps here and there just to skip little things, and taking out Queen Ilana, using a warp shard to warp back to the last fast travel point I used. And now heading back to Varnagray Metropolis, making my way downtown though this time, and I'm going to be heading into the sort of secret area, using keycard B that I picked up at the start of the run. And I'm going to be heading to the secret elevator that's going to take me all the way down to the other side of Sealed Caves. And this actually, despite still being Sealed Caves, it is not at all connected, like, in terms of layout to the Sealed Caves from earlier. I'm just going to run through here. It's fairly straightforward. This next room is called the Lotta Guys Hallway, or at least I call it that because it's a hallway with a lot of guys in it. See, I'm just sort of jumping over them, under them. This next room is kind of lumpy. I'm going to leave it paused because these enemies like to jump around and just generally inconvenience me. And we're on the last sort of substantive platforming section of it. Just running under these blobs over the mermaids. And I've gotten the water mask. I had to wait a moment after picking it up to make sure it actually entered my inventory. So the water mask is going to let me breathe underwater and swim. And so now I'm just back in Lake Serene, but this time I'm going to take a swim. Just pausing because those flies. These flies are very, very mean. Jump over one anemone, 2, and a 3, but this time I'm going to drop into the water. The dash is really weird in the water. You really stick to slopes, generally speaking, like that. Sometimes you don't, when you like kind of bounce off, but I'm not sure entirely how that works. But anyway, onto Caves of Banishment, which layout-wise is nearly identical to Sealed Caves, but with different distributions of enemies. Because they're the same location, but different time periods, essentially. So I'm just running through here. This is one of my favorite areas from a platforming perspective because there's a lot of moving, a lot of like little optimizations to make here. Okay, I didn't pause right there. Just making my way up, pausing so these guys can't inconvenience me because they like jumping too. Gonna fall a very long way. Not to my death though, because this game has no fall damage. Instead, I'm going to land in the water. I'm coming up on the snail. There are 4 snails in this run, and ideally I would jump over all of them without bonking on them. Okay, I got that one right. Ideally, I would jump over all of them without bonking on any of them, and in theory, that's really easy. In practice, it's also easy, but somehow I still always find reason to celebrate whenever I get more than about 2, because I always mess it up. Switching over to Gun Orb, because we're coming up on the next boss, the Maw of Asmodeus, which is, in the game's lore, it's a planet-destroying super weapon. In the actual... No! Okay. In the actual game, it is a complete pushover, and I don't just mean, you know, the one-shot New Game Plus. I mean, it's almost impossible to dive into this thing if you're playing regular New Game. So we've taken that out, so now we have sort of destroyed the barrier in the present, protecting the lab and the Emperor's Tower. So we can head to the lab, but first we need to run through the military hangar, which is connected to Varnagray Metropolis. The military hangar, the main part of it, consists of 5 rooms in a row that all have pretty significant room for error. So hopefully I'm going to get it right. First room was pretty decent. Second room coming up here. Just jumping over these enemies, stopping time. Just going to stop time, jump over that one. Third room is relatively easy. On to the fourth. That was a pretty clean one. And there's not really a good cue for this jump, but I still got it because I sort of know the rhythm. So now we're on to Amadeus Lab, where Dr. Bad Guy lives and does unethical science experiments. I'm going to skip a cutscene here, and I'm going to make very heavy use of the magnet hands that are present in this game, where you can just sort of grab ledges from a very far distance, sort of contending with that conveyor belt there, and using a couple of light walls. If not for light wall, that would just be there would be some pretty unpleasant, difficult platforming there, but I don't have to worry about that. I shut the power off in the lab by destroying that thing. That releases these things, the worst enemy in the whole game, Experiment 11. They're fast, they're aggressive, they are immune to time stop, and if they hit you, they inflict chaos, which drains your sand, which you don't want that, because you need sand. So I'm just climbing up here, using the magnet hands, and I'm coming up on Genza, aka Dr. Bad Guy. Because this is a marathon, I'm going to take a safety save. There's almost no chance that I would die anywhere, but you never know how things are gonna go wrong. So I got keycard A, which was his fancy keycard that lets me basically go anywhere, even the very high security areas. So I'm going to go into the lab's basement to start. And this area, without Chaos Blades and without maximum level, is intensely unpleasant. However, with these things, it's pretty easy. Just charge a Chaos Blades, just throw 3 out once I get into this room, and clear out all of the laser spiders. These laser spiders are mean, but fortunately, I was able to get through it no problem. And that's the first of the Timespinner gears, which essentially I can use that to make the Timespinner take me to the right time. So I'm back in Varnagray Metropolis, this time getting a gear, more laser spiders, just taking the elevator up a little bit. Just right here. And picking up the next gear. So the third gear is a bit more involved, how I get it. It's at the end of Sealed Caves from the very beginning of the run. Except it's a lot longer, a lot more complex, and has a lot of enemies, including some of the most dangerous in the whole game. It's generally one of those make or break areas for a speedrun. And I'm gonna jump over these mushrooms. There are a couple of mushrooms that aren't there in Caves of Banishment, but they are there in Sealed Caves. And most of them you can just jump over, and since that is ever so slightly faster than attacking them, it's better to do it that way. Just pausing again because these guys, again, they like to jump, they like to inconvenience me, and they will poison me if they hit me, so I'd rather not have that happen. Dropping down this long pit again, and coming up on the third snail of the run. Can I get 3 for the first 3? Yes, I can. And so I'm also keeping my sand up pretty well this time. Gonna pause early here, jump on the snail, and we are going to the next boss, Zarion. He's terrible to deal with in sort of casually playing, but luckily there's just this hammer, and it's a very cathartic sort of feeling being able to take him down in one hit. So anyway, we have the Timespinner fully assembled now, so we are going to go back to the lab to use it. And so we're gonna fight the real villain of this game, Mr. Cutscene. Here's how it's gonna go down. I'm gonna bonk him with my hammer, and then there's gonna be a cutscene. And So now we're going on to the last area of the game, the Ancient Pyramid. But first there's another unskippable cutscene. Just having a little bit of water. I'm feeling rather dehydrated with all this talking. Okay, so skipping a couple of things here, and running through the Dark Forest, which is based on sort of the tutorial area, but it's dark and scary. And here, this lion made out of sand, that's the Sandman. He's kinda God, and he's mad at me because I've just destroyed the universe with my meddling with time. I can't really understand why he wouldn't like that. But anyway, I'm gonna go make him, say he's sorry for being mad at me or something. Just skipping that there, that little platform, because I can, jumping over that guy, Conviction. So I'm coming up on Pyramid Jump, which is the hardest trick in the game, and you get one try at it, and if you miss it, you lose, about a minute. So, basically, I'm gonna light wall. I missed it. Okay, so basically I was supposed to light wall and then jump a little earlier, and obviously that didn't happen. So now I have to use light wall to climb all the way back out. And so since this is basically just jump, light wall, jump, light wall, jump, light wall, there's not all that much to talk about. So since the run's coming to the end, I want to take this opportunity to give a couple shout-outs. One to the Timespinner speedrunning community for routing and testing and optimizing this game so well. And two to Bodhi/Lunar Games for not only making this game, but including not one, but two speedrun modes. And also to Bullets for organizing this on such short notice and giving me the opportunity to show off this run. Anyway, I'm out of the pit now. Just running along, zapping these enemies. And jumping over these, the spacing between them and the ceiling is really nice, really nice. One last enemy here, just gonna zap him. And we're coming up on the last two bosses, so time is actually coming up kind of soon now. If I, or time is going to be when I hit the second of them, which is Nightmare. But first is going to be the Sandman. Here's the hammer, and here comes Nightmare. I don't know who he is or where he came from, but he's here, and just need to charge up the Colossal Hammer, and time. So, that's Timespinner. New Game Plus, no major glitches. Kinda wish I'd hit that pyramid jump, but overall pretty happy with how that run went. I feel like I got to show off most of the little skips and tricks and stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. It's just this last cutscene here. And there we go.